Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to today's session. This is Clavin Fernandez, your very own Muhimbi support manager.
In this video, we will discuss how we can convert a PowerApps screen to PDF
using the PowerApps function, Power Automate, and Muhimbi PDF converter. So without wasting any further time, let's deep dive into the demo. For the purpose of this demo, I'm going to create a Canvas app and let's create it from blank. I'll use the tablet layout because it gives me more area to go ahead and explain you more controls and how we can convert those controls to a PDF screen. So let's give the app a meaningful name. I'll just give it PowerApps Demo. So here we have a blank Canvas app. So let's create a very interactive Power Apps using controls. So I'll go ahead and add a text input. That's going to be the first thing. And then I'm going to add few controls. So the first control that I'm going to add is going to be a camera control. I'll block the camera control for now, and then I'll go ahead and add a pen input. So these three are the most used controls in PowerApps, and I don't think there are many demos on the internet which explain how to go ahead and export an image as well as a pen input. So let's further add two buttons. Perfect. So this is our beautiful PowerApps if you see, and now we want to export this screen to a PDF. So basically the whole idea out here is to go ahead and push the text input, the camera image, and the pen input into a collection. And then we will try to convert that collection into an HTML and then convert it into a PDF. So the first thing that comes to our mind, what is a collection? So a PowerApps collection is used to store data in a tabular format. We can use data structures within PowerApps. So basically we can go ahead and create a table which can go ahead and store our text field, the camera image, and the pen input as well. And all of those things would be stored in a tabular format. So without wasting further time, let's create our first collection. So to create a collection, we need to first click on the button. Let's select button 1, or let's give it a more sensible name. So we have the collect control button out here. And here what I'm going to do is, first thing that I'm going to change the text property as well. The second thing that I need to do is we need to change it to an OnSelect function. There you go. So we have it on the OnSelect function. Now let's create a collection. So a collection can usually be defined with the name collect. If you look at the description, it will create a new or an existing collection to argument. So basically what it needs a collection name and it needs the item on which we need to create a collection for. So let's create control collection. This will be a name, this will be the name of a collection. I'll hit comma, put in the curly brackets and hit the closing round bracket. Now we need to go ahead and pass these values to a collection. So let me go ahead and quickly add those values. So the first would be, I'll name it name. So the name would be the text input 1. Yeah, the text input 1 dot text. So we are interested in the text itself. The second would be the camera image. So let's name it as an image. And then I'll take the camera control. So camera 1 dot photo. The third value for a collection would be the pen input. So I'll just put in pen and then put in pen input 1 dot image. So here we have created our collection. Now let's go ahead and try out our collection. Okay. So let me quickly go ahead and let's go ahead and test a collection. So I have my camera input active. I'll add some text, but before that I need to just play the Power App. I'll add a text known as Clavin Fernandez, my name. I'll just click an image, scribble out something out here and click on collect control. So now that we have pushed the data into the collection, let's look at the data. So let's click on file and click on collections. So here you will see that you can find my image, my name, and the scribbled pen control. So we have this data in our collection, but we need to remember that collection is basically a collection of items. For the purpose of this demo, we are going to go ahead and select only one item. That's very important. So once we go ahead and update one item, we need to make sure that a collection is cleared as well. So let's see how we can clear the collection. But before that, let's go ahead and set these values, these collection values, to a variable so that we can use it further. So now that we have our values in the collection, as I told you, let's go ahead and set it to a variable. So I'll use the set function. A set function is used to go ahead and set some value to a variable. Okay, that's very important to understand, some value to the variable. And in our case, if you look, we need to set the whole collection to a variable. So the first thing, we need to give a variable a name. So I'll give it JSON variable, JSON var, and then I'll go ahead and use JSON functions. So a JSON function can be defined with the syntax JSON, and then followed by an opening and closing bracket. So in a JSON function, we need to pass in the data. Just close the bracket out here as well. I need to pass the data. So the data is what? So the data is our collection. So we need to pass in the collection. So let's pass in our collection. So I'll tell it control collection, and then I need to pass it as JSON format dot include as binary data. So we will include as binary data because we have got both the images and the pen control, and I think that's it. So let's go ahead and let's first save it, and let's create a new collection. But before we create a new collection, let's clear the old connection. So I'll just use this button to clear off the collection, and I'll just go ahead and create a new collection. So I cleared off the old collection, give it a new name, scribble a bit more, collect control. That's it. So let's check our collection again. Perfect. You see that you have my image, you have my name with the number 1, and then we have the pen control as well. So let's go ahead and understand what is there in this particular variable known as JSON var. Okay. So if you look out here, we have an image and we have a pen control as well. If you look at the text out here. So this is super exciting, right? So we have everything in a JSON array that we can go ahead and pass it to maybe a Microsoft Flow and then generate PDF. So let me go ahead and just add a label just to understand. So this is why I like the table or the tablet input, because you have got so much space that you can troubleshoot and debug right on the PowerApps itself. So the variable name was JSON var. Ooh, just look at it. We have this all as a base 64-bit string which we can pass it to our Microsoft Flow. So let this be as it is as of now. And then finally we will clear our collection, because we need to clear the collection. We are only interested in one row from a collection. So I'll use the clear function and pass in the collection name, and that's it. So what this will do is that we will first collect the item, store the collection in a variable, and then clear the collection off. So let's quickly check if this works still. So I'll clear the collection first using this button. Let me put in Clavin 2 out here. Just scribble a bit more and collect control. So when we navigate back to the PowerApps screen, you can see that file collections and there is no collection. But out here, because we have set it to a variable, you can see that our variable still goes ahead and holds the value. So now that we have our values in a variable, let's go ahead and use the second button to go ahead and churn out this values into an HTML file. So I'll just clear off this function that we just associated it with, and then I'll click on the actions menu and click on Power Automate. So in Power Automate, I'll create a new flow. This redirects me to the flow screen. I'll use the FlowApps button and I'll sign in. So I'll use the flow PowerApps and manual template. So if you see out here, we have an action which actually tells us that no additional steps are required. You'll be able to use the output in subsequent steps. So what I'll do is that because I need to store the variable our JSON var and get it into the flow, I'll create a variable and I'll create an initialize variable action. I'll use the initialize variable and I'll just put it as JSON sample and I'll set it as a type string and then I'll click on ask PowerApps. So this is the first step that I need to do. I'll go ahead and give my PowerApp a name. Now when I navigate back to my PowerApps, you'll see that we have a JSON function PowerApps out here. Perfect. So now what we can do is that pass our JSON var variable to our flow. So I'll just save it and navigate back to our flow. Perfect. So now we are back in the flow. Let's go ahead and understand how we can go ahead and get the values. So all the values are stored in the JSON sample. So first what we need is we need to pass these values. Passing the values is really important. Okay, so Flow provides an inbuilt action which goes ahead and helps us parse JSON. So it's known as parse JSON and it's under the data operations. So I'll just go ahead and rename this before we go ahead. So JSON sample and then pass in the content out here. So now we need the schema. From where we can get the schema? So the schema can be found by navigating back to our PowerApps and this particular input out here can help us generate the schema. So let's double tap on it, do a Control A, right click, copy, and let's navigate back to our flow, or you can say Power Automate. So I copied this and I'll click on generate from sample. I'll pass in the JSON payload out here and hit done. If you look closely, we have our image, we have a name, and we have a pen input. That's all that we need. So the first step, as I told you, we need to generate an HTML. So to generate an HTML, let's go ahead and create another variable which will go ahead and store our HTML file. Okay, so I'll create another variable out here. I'll use the initialize variable, give it a name, HTML file. I'll rename this as well. The type would be string. We do not need to assign any values as of now out here. So the next thing that I want to do is go ahead and generate the HTML, or you can say compose the HTML. So I'll use the compose function. In the compose function, what I need, first thing, we need to pass these values out here, the name, the image, and the pen control. I'll make it as a header, h1, and then insert the name. So as soon as I insert the name, it takes me into a loop. The next thing, I need to pass in the image. So I'll use the image source tag. I'll use the image source tag out here and then pass in the image. Okay, I'll copy this again and then I want to pass in the pen control as well. So pen. Oh, sorry. I'll pass in the pen. That's it. So now we have something like an h1, which will include a header, which will include the name, then the image, and then the pen input. Now what I'll do is that I'll go ahead and assign this value of compose. So I'll just rename it before that, compose HTML. Yeah, that's more descriptive. And let's set the value. So set variable. So set variable function, or the action you can call it. I'll just set the HTML file. Need to rename this before that. This is our HTML file. And then I'll pass in the value of the compose action. Okay, so this is our output and I'll pass it in. So now as we have this, now let's go ahead and let's create a new step. In the new step, we need to go ahead and we need to add the step outside the loop because we need to go ahead and create the file in SharePoint. So I'll just use the create file action. Let's use the create file action from SharePoint. Perfect. Here we go. So here I'll put in the name of a site collection, the test site collection, and then let me use shared documents. Let's give it a name. For this demo, I'll just keep it clavin.html and then pass in the file content. So the file content, if you remember, is stored in the set variable, that is the HTML file. The first thing, I'll just rename this one as well, HTML set variable HTML. So that's a bit descriptive. I'll just use the set HTML, the output from the set HTML. So the HTML file, and that's it. Now I'll save it so my flow does not have any errors out here. And then I'll go ahead and test it. Okay, so to test this flow, I need to go ahead and navigate back to the PowerApps and create a variable or create collection. Let me get back to the PowerApps. So here I'm back in my PowerApps. So let's go ahead and click on the play button. Let's give it a name. Let's give it Clavin 3. Let's click an image. Let's scribble more and click on collect control. So here, if you look at it, our variable has been updated. And then we have to go ahead and execute the flow by clicking on this button. So if you see out here, something is happening. And let's go back and check if our flow has run successfully or no. So if you look out here, our flow actually failed. Now, if you look at here, unable to process the template language expression. So this is actually a known issue with Microsoft Flow and PowerApps. When we use this in conjunction, if the PowerApps has been updated and the flow has not been updated, or vice versa, this comes up. So how to troubleshoot this? This is not actually a problem in your flow logic. That's the first thing that you need to understand. So let's go back to our PowerApps. The solution is quite simple. So let's click on the button and let me just go ahead and just remove this. And I'll go ahead and click on Power Automate again and add my function or my flow again out here. So it's adding it again. So here I again pass in the JSON variable and I hit save. So let's try again. Let's click on this. Let's create Clavin 4. Let's click an image. Let's scribble here. This is almost all scribbled. Click on collect and then click on the button. Let's see if our flow triggered. And here you see that we have succeeded our flow. So let's go back and check if a file has been created as well. Okay. So here I am in the test site. In the documents folder, I see a file clavin.html which was created 1 minute ago. So I'll just click on it. And here you see Clavin 4, my image and the scribbled text all in this HTML file. Now this HTML file does not look all that beautiful, but that's fine as of now because I know that you power users out there have got a lot more HTML skills than I have. And you can create beautiful PowerApps screen and with HTML and convert them into a PDF. So now if you look at it, we have created the PowerApps, we have created the flow, but where is the PDF? So let's go ahead and create a PDF flow. So let's go back to our flow pane and let's create a new flow. Now you'll be asking, Clavin, why are you creating a new flow? So I'm creating a new flow because Microsoft itself does not go ahead and support credentials, or you can say that passing of credentials in PowerApps itself for any third-party application such as Muhimbi, or not even third-party if you think of a SQL server, etc. So to overcome this approach, we have to use something known as decoupling of flow. So basically what we can do is that we can go ahead and create another flow and associate to a list such that when an item is created from the PowerApps using flow in the document library, another flow will be triggered automatically, which will go ahead and convert it into a PDF and send it out as an email. Okay, so let's see it. How can that be done? So I'm back at the flow screen. Let's go ahead and click on create. And I'll create an automated flow. And this I'll give it a name, create PDF. Select a trigger when a file is created in a folder. Okay, use this trigger because that's what we need. That's a SharePoint trigger, or the site and the document library in which we wrote the file previously. So it's the test site and it's the shared documents, right? So then I'll create a new step and then I'll go ahead and add the convert action. And then I'll pass in the file name. if you look at the file name is returned by SharePoint, and then I'll pass in the file content, and then I'll go ahead and use the send email. So in the send email, I'll go ahead and add email, add a subject line, a body. I'll copy the same, and then I'll add the attachments. Okay, so the attachment would be base file name .pdf, then the processed file content. I'll save this. Okay, so now we have everything configured. So we have our Power Apps, we have a flow which churns out an HTML, and now we also have a flow which goes ahead and creates a PDF. So let me go back and delete this item. That's the first thing that I'll do. So I'm back at my Power Apps screen. I'll hit the play button. I'll hit rename it to Clavin 5. I'll create another photo. I'll just clear this thing off and I'll just scribble little. Click on collect control. Then I'll click on the button. So our flow has also triggered. So let's see if our flow has executed. So our flow succeeded 13 seconds ago. So now we should have an HTML in the test site. Okay, we have an HTML. When I open it, I get something like Clavin 5, and you see this is less scribbled. Let's get back here and let's check the create file. It's not triggered yet. So if you see out here, our flow ran 16 seconds ago and it was successful. Okay, so let's go back and let's check our Outlook. So here we have a generated PDF. If I double click on it, you see that you have my name, you have my image, and you have the scribbled text. So this is how we can convert multiple controls from a Power Apps screen to PDF. Is this not really easy? Yes, it is. And this is me, and thank you for listening.